The wind screamed across the white, empty valley as Evan, a human explorer, pushed forward through the deep snow. His boots sank with every step, and the cold bit into his face like sharp needles. He had been walking alone for hours. On this frozen alien planet, storms came without warning, and today's storm was getting worse. The sky had turned dark. Snow clouds twisted above him, and the world looked like a giant white maze. Evan knew he should find shelter soon, but suddenly, something strange happened. A tiny, weak voice floated through the wind. "Please, help me." Evan stopped instantly. His heart jumped. He looked left, then right. No one was there. Only snow, ice, and more ice. The voice came again, clearer this time. "Please, someone help me." Evan felt a cold shiver go down his back, and it wasn't from the weather. This place was uninhabited. No humans lived here. No animals could talk. So who was calling him? He slowly moved toward the sound, listening carefully. The whisper came from behind a tall frozen ridge. Evan walked around it and gasped. There, half buried in the snow, was a large, crystal-clear ice block. And inside it, curled up like a trapped bird, was a tiny alien girl glowing faint blue. She was no bigger than a human hand. Her small face was scared, her little arms pressed against the ice, and her eyes were filled with tears. Evan stepped closer, shocked. She was alive. She looked at him with hope and whispered again, her voice shaking, "Please, help me, human." Evan's breath caught. How did she know he was human? No one on this planet should even know what a human looked like. He placed his hand on the ice block. It burned with freezing cold, colder than anything he had ever touched. The ice was strange. It felt alive, and it was slowly spreading, crawling over the tiny girl's legs, threatening to swallow her completely. Evan's heart raced. She did not have much time. "It's okay," he said softly. "I'll get you out." But even as he spoke, he knew this would not be easy. Evan pulled out his portable heat cutter. The blade glowed red, sending steam into the air. He pressed it against the ice, and nothing happened. The ice didn't melt. It didn't even warm up. It fought the heat like metal. "What kind of ice is this?" He whispered. Inside the block, the tiny girl began to panic as the cold crept up her chest. Her glow flickered like a dying light. "Please, hurry." Evan hit the ice harder, pushing his cutter to full power. Still nothing. His heartbeat grew louder in his ears. He looked around desperately for something else, something he could use. And then he felt it, a vibration under his feet. The ground trembled for a moment. The air shifted. Something old, something dangerous, had awakened. Evan turned sharply, scanning the valley. Snow swirled violently. The wind howled like a living beast. Then he saw them. Shadows. Tall, slow-moving shapes forming inside the storm. Long, sharp outlines. Eyes glowing faintly through the snow. Someone or something was watching him. Evan's stomach tightened. He didn't have time to deal with whatever those creatures were. He hit the ice again, harder than before. This time, a thin crack appeared. "Yes," he whispered. Inside, the tiny alien girl tried to smile, but her strength was fading. Her eyes struggled to stay open. The shadows moved closer. Evan could hear their heavy steps crunching in the snow. They were hunting something. Maybe him. Maybe her. The icy ground shook again, harder this time. "Come on, break," Evan shouted. He swung the cutter with all his force, slamming it into the ice. The crack widened. A soft ringing sound filled the air as the block weakened. Then, the tiny girl opened her eyes wide and whispered with her last bit of strength, "Human, please, hurry. They are coming." The final words hit Evan like a punch. Fear rushed through him. Who was coming? What did they want? He raised the cutter again, sweat freezing on his forehead, his hands trembling. The shadows were only meters away now. Blue glowing eyes stared at him through the storm. The ice block groaned. The crack spread. Evan took one last breath, whispered, "Hold on," and struck the ice with everything he had. The block shattered. And darkness fell over the valley. Asterisk. Snow exploded in every direction as the ice block shattered. Evan shielded his face with his arm until the sharp ice pieces settled on the ground. For a moment, everything went silent. Too silent. The storm paused as if the world was holding its breath. Evan slowly lowered his arm and looked down. The tiny alien girl lay in his hands, cold, shivering, and barely glowing. Her skin was pale blue, like moonlight, and her breathing was weak. She felt light as a feather. "Hey, stay with me," Evan whispered, but her eyes did not open. Her small body was freezing fast. The dangerous ancient frost ice had drained her strength. Evan gently wrapped her in the warm inner layer of his jacket, trying to give her any heat he could. A chilling sound cut through the air. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Heavy footsteps in the snow. Evan's heartbeat quickened. The tall shadows he saw earlier were no longer far. They were coming straight toward him. He could now see their glowing blue eyes moving between the swirling snow creatures, shaped like wolves, but larger than bears. Their bodies were covered in thick frost armor that cracked with every step. Frost. Beasts. He had heard stories from old explorers. Creatures born from storms. Hunters of anything warm, drawn to fear and weakness. And he was holding the warmest thing in the valley. Evan took a slow breath and scanned the area. He needed shelter. Somewhere to hide. Somewhere to protect the girl. But all he saw was endless white. The beasts stepped closer. Their low growls echoed across the valley. Evan's hands tightened around the tiny alien girl. Running with her would be slow. Fighting them would be stupid. But leaving her behind? Impossible. He reached into his belt pouch and grabbed the flare gun. It had only one shot. He had planned to use it for emergencies, not this kind of emergency. The nearest frost beast crouched low, ready to leap. Evan lifted the flare gun. "Not today," he muttered. He fired. A burst of bright red light exploded into the air, burning hot and scattering glowing sparks. The frost beasts howled and jumped back, covering their eyes. The flare's heat pushed them away, melting the snow beneath it, but it wouldn't hold them off for long. With them distracted, Evan turned and ran, boots pounding against the ice, heart racing. The tiny alien girl's weak breaths pressed softly against his chest through his jacket. "Please hang on," he whispered to her. He ran toward a rocky rise ahead. There was a chance, a small chance, of finding a cave or hollow under the rocks. Something to hide in. Something to buy them time. Behind him, the frost beasts roared. The flare faded. Their heavy steps started again. Faster now. Evan pushed himself harder. Snow whipped his face. His lungs burned from the cold. Then he saw it, a narrow crack under two leaning boulders. Small, dark, but just big enough for him to crawl inside. He slid in, pulling himself through the tight space. The cold rock scraped his jacket, but he didn't stop. He crawled deeper into the darkness until the tunnel opened into a wider pocket, a small cave carved by wind and time. He sat back against the rock, breathing hard. Outside, the frost beasts sniffed the air. Their claws clicked against the stone. "Don't wake up. Don't cry. Stay quiet, little one," Evan whispered to the girl. Suddenly she trembled in his hands. Her small fingers curled, and her glow flickered. She was waking up, but she was also getting weaker. Her eyes slowly opened, tiny, bright, shining with fear. "Where am I?" she whispered. "Safe for now," Evan replied softly. "I got you out." Her eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, human." She pressed her tiny hand against his thumb, but her body suddenly jerked in pain. The ancient frost was still inside her, spreading like poison. "I need warmth," she whispered weakly. "If the frost touches my heart, I will sleep forever." Evan clenched his jaw. He wished he had more gear, more tools, more anything. Outside, the frost beasts growled louder. One of them slammed its massive body against the rock wall. Dust fell from the cave ceiling. The girl flinched. "They will not stop," she whispered. "They smell the frost in me, and they want it." Evan looked around the cave desperately for something, anything. His eyes landed on a broken heat rod lying half buried in the dirt. Maybe dropped by an explorer long ago. He grabbed it, pressed the switch. Nothing. He hit it against the rock. A weak orange glow flickered at the tip. It wasn't much, but it was something. He held it close to the tiny girl. She gasped softly as warmth touched her skin. Her glow brightened slightly, but she was still weak. Outside, claws scraped the stone. The beasts were trying to dig through. The girl looked up at him, eyes wide and scared. "Human. They are coming. And I cannot run." Evan tightened his grip on the heat rod and whispered, "Then I will protect you." The frost beasts roared, and the cave wall began to crack. The cave shook as another heavy slam hit the outer wall. Snow and dust fell from the ceiling, sprinkling over Evan's shoulders. The frost beasts were getting closer, stronger and louder. If they broke through, he and the tiny alien girl would not survive. But right now, Evan's focus stayed on the little one resting in his hands. She breathed weakly, her tiny body trembling. The small orange glow from the half-broken heat rod warmed her slowly. But it wasn't enough. Her faint blue light flickered like a candle in the wind. "Stay with me," Evan whispered. Her small eyes opened again, a little clearer this time. She looked at him carefully, as if studying his face, trying to understand who he was. "You saved me," she said softly. Her tiny voice echoed gently in the small cave. "I'm trying," Evan replied. "But you need more warmth. Your body is freezing faster than I can stop." She nodded weakly, as if she already knew. Then she lifted her small hand and touched his thumb again. Her touch felt cold, but not painful, more like touching morning frost on leaves. "My name is Leary," she whispered. "Evan," he said. Her glow brightened slightly when she heard his name. Another slam hit the cave wall. Crack! A thin line spread across the stone. Evan's grip tightened around the girl. "They are almost inside," she said, her voice scared but calm. "They always follow the ancient frost. It calls to them." "Why were you trapped in that ice?" Evan asked quickly. He needed answers, anything that could help him protect her. Leary closed her eyes for a moment, gathering strength. "I was running from hunters," she whispered. "Bad people. They wanted to catch me. They made me fall into a trap. They froze me with ancient frost so I couldn't escape." Evan's jaw clenched. "Hunters? What for?" Leary hesitated. Her glow dimmed. "Because of what I am." Before Evan could ask more, a loud growl echoed outside. One of the beasts shoved its massive head into the tunnel opening, its blue eyes glowing like burning ice. Evan reacted instantly. He grabbed the stone from the ground and threw it with full force. It struck the beast on the snout. The creature roared in pain and pulled back, but only for a second. It would return. The ground trembled again as the other beasts circled the cave. Searching for weak points, Leary looked at Evan with fear. "You cannot fight them all." "Maybe not," he said. "But I'll try." She looked down sadly. "I don't want you to die because of me." Evan shook his head. "You're not dying either. Not today." Suddenly, a strange glow pulsed from her tiny chest. It spread through her body and into the cave, filling the space with soft blue light. The air warmed. The frost on the walls began to melt. Evan's eyes widened. "What's happening?" Leary took a deep breath. Her glow grew brighter, stronger. I think I am remembering my power. The cave shook again, but this time it wasn't the beast's dot, it was her dot. Blue energy flowed from her skin like gentle waves. Her glow reached the cave entrance and spread outside. Evan crawled forward carefully and peeked out. The storm stopped. Just stopped. The snow in the air froze in place, hanging like tiny white stars. The wind fell silent. The sky above the valley turned clear, revealing a faint green aurora rippling behind the clouds. The frost beasts, mid-step, froze completely. Their glowing eyes dimmed. They were stuck like statues, frozen by her energy, not by the cold. Evan stared, amazed. "Leary, you did that?" She looked embarrassed and nodded. "I am Frostborn. My kind can speak to nature. We can calm storms, or create them." Evan slowly looked around the valley. Everything was silent, peaceful, strange. "You froze the storm?" he asked. "Only for a short time," she whispered. "I am still weak, but I did stop the beasts." Evan gently held her in both hands now. Her glow looked warmer, steadier. "You saved us," he said. She looked away shyly. "You saved me first." Suddenly, a deep boom echoed from far across the valley. Not a beast. Not nature. Something mechanical. A ship. Evan saw a large shadow moving above the snow, a huge aircraft descending through the clearing storm. Heavy engines hummed as it searched the valley with a bright blue spotlight. Leary's face turned pale. Her glow faded. "No," she whispered. "Not them." "Who?" Evan asked. She pointed with a shaking hand. "The hunters. They found us." The giant ship's spotlight swept across the valley, heading straight toward the cave. Evan felt cold fear grip his chest. The beasts were frozen. The storm was quiet, but now something far worse was coming. He held Leary close and whispered, "Then we run." The ship's engines roared, and the war for Leary's life began. The hunter's ship hovered above the valley like a giant metal shadow. Its engines rumbled through the frozen air, shaking snow off the distant cliffs. A bright blue spotlight cut across the white landscape, searching, hunting, scanning every corner. Inside the small cave, Evan pulled Leary closer to his chest. Her glow dimmed with fear, and her tiny hands trembled against his jacket. "They're coming for me," she whispered, voice full of dread. "They won't stop until they catch me." Evan looked out through the narrow crack in the cave wall. The ship wasn't some ordinary transport, it was built like a predator. Sharp edges, heavy armor, and giant claws used to grab targets from the ground. It moved with purpose. And with hunger. He had only seconds to decide. "Can you walk?" he asked. Leary shook her head. "My legs are still weak. The ancient frost took too much energy." "Then I'll carry you," Evan said. "But we can't stay here. They'll scan this cave." As if answering his words, the ship released a deep humming sound. A blue wave of energy swept across the valley. The frozen beasts cracked and crumbled into icy dust. The hunters were clearing the field. Evan swallowed hard. "We're going, now." He tucked Leary gently inside his thick jacket, leaving a small opening for her to breathe and see. Her glow warmed his chest like a tiny beating star. He crawled toward the narrow exit. The moment he stepped outside, the cold air stabbed his skin again. The storm was still frozen in time, still, silent, unnatural, held in place by Leary's weakened power. Evan moved fast, staying low to avoid the blue spotlight that swept back and forth across the valley. Crunching snow under his boots sounded too loud. Every breath felt risky. Above him, the hunter's ship adjusted its angle and released small drones, metal spheres with glowing red lenses. They spread out, scanning the ground. "Lir," I squeaked softly. "Those drones, they catch heat and life signs." Evan's heart dropped. His body was warm. And Leary's glow was bright, even through the jacket. He ran. Each step sent snow flying behind him. The drones buzzed overhead like hungry insects. Evan zigzagged through the valley, using rocks and fallen ice pillars for cover. The nearest drone suddenly stopped. Its lens turned bright red. It had spotted something. Down! Evan whispered, throwing himself behind a broken ridge. A beam of red energy shot past his head, burning the snow. The drone screamed an alarm signal and darted toward him. Evan grabbed a fist-sized piece of ice and hurled it with full force. It hit the drone's lens, cracking it. The machine spiraled wildly and crashed into the snow with a sharp hiss. "That won't stop them long," Leary warned softly. "More will come." Evan looked around. The valley was wide, open, and deadly. The only safe place was there. He muttered. A long trench of collapsed ice led downward toward a narrow gorge. If they reached it, they could hide in the shadows. He sprinted toward it, but the ship reacted immediately. The spotlight locked onto him. A loud metallic voice echoed from the sky. "Target detected. Retrieve the Frostborn. Eliminate the human." Leary gasped and clutched Evan's jacket tighter. "They know what you are." Evan didn't look up. He ran even faster, snow exploding with every step. A metal claw shot down from the ship, huge, sharp, and glowing blue. It slammed into the ground behind Evan, missing him by inches. The impact shook the earth, nearly knocking him off his feet. He slid down the trench, tumbling through icy chunks until he reached the bottom. Snow covered his hair and shoulders, but he didn't stop. He pulled himself together and ran toward a jagged wall of ice. The hunter's ship rotated and lowered itself over the trench. Scanning the cracks, Evan reached the gorge entrance, narrow, dark, and barely wide enough for one person. He squeezed into it just as a second claws smashed the ground where he had stood seconds ago. Inside the gorge, the air felt heavy, still cold, but safer. The walls rose sharply on both sides, blocking the hunter's view. Shadows wrapped around Evan like protective arms. Leary slowly peeked out from the jacket. Her glow was faint but steady. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "This is all because of me." Evan shook his head. "You don't apologize for surviving. They're the ones hunting a child." She looked up at him with wide, sad eyes. "You're risking everything for me." He managed a tired smile. Someone had to be the first human these aliens meet. Might as well be a good one. Leary's tiny fingers clutched his jacket softly, but their moment didn't last. A mechanical clicking echoed through the gorge. Evan looked ahead and his blood ran cold. More drones. Smaller ones. Faster ones. Packed with paralytic darts. Leary pressed herself against his chest. "Evan, they've surrounded the gorge." He heard metal footsteps above them, hunters walking along the canyon edge, tracking their movement. They were trapped. Evan backed up slowly, breathing hard. He scanned the walls, the floor, the darkness. There had to be a way out. "There's something else," Leary whispered suddenly. "Something you don't know. What is it?" Evan asked. She closed her eyes and glowed faintly. "If the hunters take me, they will use my power to change the whole planet." The gorge fell silent. "What do you mean?" Evan whispered. She looked into his eyes with fear and truth. "They want to control the storms. They want to control the weather. And they want to erase anyone who protects me, including you." Above them, metal boots stopped. A hunter leaned over the edge, armor black, eyes glowing red. He raised his weapon and fired. Asterisk. The red bolt fired from the hunter's weapon burned through the air like lightning. Evan reacted on pure instinct. He twisted his body and pressed Leary tightly against his chest. While diving behind a tall slab of ice in the gorge, the blast struck the ground where he had just been. Snow exploded upward in a bright flash. Evan hit the ground hard, rolling behind the ice wall. His chest burned, His hands shook, and his breath came out in sharp white clouds. But he held Leary safely in his arms. The tiny alien girl looked up at him with terrified eyes. "Evan, they want to kill you." "Not if I move faster," he said through clenched teeth. Above them, the hunters stepped along the cliff edge, giant figures in heavy black armor. Their helmets glowed with red lines, and their boots sent echoes through the gorge. They walked like machines, precise and without fear. The drones below hummed louder, scanning every part of the gorge with red beams that flickered across the ice dot. Evan knew he couldn't stay hidden long. He peeked out from behind the ice slab. A drone hovered only a few meters away. Its small needles clicked open, ready to shoot paralytic darts. Evan grabbed a broken piece of rock and threw it as hard as he could. The rock struck the drone's lens. It flickered, spun in a confused circle, and smashed into the wall, sparking angrily. The other drones turned toward the sound instantly. "Move," Evan whispered. He sprinted deeper into the gorge, snow spraying behind him. His boots slipped, his lungs burned, but he pushed forward. The hunters shouted in a language he didn't understand, their voices cold and sharp. Leary held onto him tightly. Her tiny heart beat fast against his chest. The gorge narrowed again ahead. Evan rushed inside the tight passage, pressing his back to one wall to squeeze through. The hunters' drones couldn't follow him here. They were too big. For a moment, he felt relief, but the hunters were smarter than the beasts they froze earlier. A buzzing sound echoed behind him. They sent micro-drones, small spider-like machines with glowing red eyes, crawling down the walls like insects. They skittered quickly, following the heat from Evan's body. Leary gasped. "They're coming!" Evan reached the end of the narrow passage and stumbled into a wider open space, an icy canyon with smooth walls and a frozen river running through it. The glowing blue sky above them shimmered gently, still held in place by Leary's weak power. He set her gently on a flat rock. "Stay here. Don't move." Her eyes widened. "Evan, what are you doing?" He didn't answer. He grabbed a long shard of ice from the river sharp and shaped like a spear. He gripped it tightly. "I'm buying us time," he said simply. The first micro-drone crawled into the canyon. Evan smashed down with the ice spear. The machine split in half, sparks flying. 3 more crawled in. Evan knocked one aside with his foot, stabbed another with the ice spear, and grabbed a rock to crush the third. His arms screamed in pain, but he didn't stop. He couldn't. Human strength. One hunter's voice boomed from above, amplified by speakers. "Is nothing compared to our technology." Evan spat into the snow. "Then you don't know humans." A blast hit the canyon wall. Ice shattered. Evan ducked behind a large pillar, heart pounding. The hunters were now firing from above, trying to corner him. Leary crawled weakly toward him, her tiny glow flickering. "Stop fighting, please. You will die." Evan looked at her small, fragile, scared, yet powerful enough to stop storms. "No," he said firmly. "I won't die here. And I won't let them take you." She stared at him with wide blue eyes. "Why? You don't even know me." Evan took a deep breath. "Because you're a child. Because you needed help. Because no one deserves to be hunted." The hunters fired again. The blast carved a huge crack across the canyon wall. Leary's eyes filled with tears. Her glow pulsed, brighter than before. "Evan, you are changing the storm again." He looked up. The sky was shifting. Clouds that were frozen earlier began to swirl. The soft green aurora twisted like a living ribbon. "Your power is coming back," Evan whispered. "But only because of you," Leary said. "Your warmth. Your courage. It wakes something inside me." The wind started to move again, slowly, whispering through the canyon. The hunters noticed immediately. "Frostborn energy detected," the loudspeaker roared. "Prepare extraction." Evan grabbed Leary carefully. We need to go deeper. There has to be a way out. But the canyon ahead was blocked by a tall wall of ice. No path. No exit. Just a dead end. A hunter jumped from the cliff, landing in front of them with a heavy thud. His armor glowed with cold power. He lifted his weapon. Leary cried out, "No!" Her glow exploded. A wave of blue energy shot outward from her tiny body. It hit the hunter like a hammer made of light. The impact sent him flying across the canyon, smashing into the far wall. Evan stared, stunned. "Leary, did you just—" The little girl looked up at him, breathing hard, her glow blazing bright. "Evan, my power is coming back. But I can't control it." Behind them, cracks spread across the canyon walls. Ice trembled. The frozen river glowed blue. The hunters steadied their weapons. The storm above roared to life. Again. Evan held Leary close. The real fight was about to begin. Snow swirled upward like a reverse waterfall, as Leary's sudden burst of power shook the entire canyon. Evan held her close, trying to shield her from the falling ice while the ground cracked beneath his feet. The frozen river glowed bright blue, sending thin lines of light across the ice like living veins. Leary trembled in his hands. Her tiny chest rose and fell rapidly, the glow inside her pulsing like a heartbeat. "Evan," she whispered, "I can't hold the energy. It's too much." "You don't have to control it," Evan said calmly, even while fear twisted inside him. "Just focus on staying awake. I won't let anything happen to you." Above them, the hunters regrouped. Their black armor glowed with red warnings, and their helmets scanned the canyon for the source of the energy. One hunter shouted into his communicator, "Frostborn awakening detected. Prepare containment field." Evan's blood ran cold. They weren't trying to kill her anymore. They were trying to capture her alive. Hunter aimed a silver capsule at them. The capsule cracked open mid-air, releasing a swirling net of red energy designed to trap powers like hers. Leary gasped. No, Evan, that thing will steal my glow." Evan didn't think. He grabbed a piece of broken ice pillar and swung it hard. The glowing red net hit the ice and wrapped around it instead. Tightening like a hungry spider web. The ice fragment melted instantly, turning black. Leary shuddered. "That would have destroyed me." Evan swallowed. "Then I won't let it touch you." The hunters fired another net. Evan ran. His boots slammed against the ice as he sprinted through the canyon, holding Leary against his chest. The net whistled past his head, missing him by inches and burning into the canyon wall. The storm overhead grew heavier, swirling wildly. Snow twisted in strange patterns around them. Leary's glow was shifting from soft blue to bright white. "Why is the storm changing?" Evan shouted over the wind. Leary pressed her tiny hand against his thumb. "Because my kin are hearing my call." Evan slowed for a second. "Your kin? You mean—" A deep rumble rolled through the earth, shaking the entire valley. "Oh no," Leary whispered. "They're waking up." The hunters noticed it too. Their helmets turned upward as cracks appeared across the canyon walls. Ice structures began to rise slowly at first, then rapidly forming shapes the size of buildings. Evan stopped. Stunned. Huge figures made of ice stepped out from the canyon walls like giants emerging from sleep. Their bodies glowed blue under the snow. Their heads were crowned with ancient, sharp ice ridges. Their eyes were the same glowing blue as Leary's. "Frostborn guardians," she whispered, voice shaking with relief and fear. "They were asleep for centuries, but my power woke them." The nearest guardian turned its enormous head toward Evan. Its eyes scanned him, then lowered to the tiny glowing figure in his hands for a moment. Nothing happened. Then the guardian knelt. The sound was deep, powerful, like mountains bowing to the earth. 3 more guardians stepped forward. forming a protective circle around Evan and Leary. Their ice bodies glimmered like crystal armor. Their breaths came out in cold blue mist. The hunters panicked. Retreat! Retreat! The Guardians are active. We must capture the Frostborn child before they awaken fully. But it was too late. The Guardians raised their arms. Blue energy pulsed from their hands like ancient magic. The storm obeyed them. Snow rushed downward in a spiral, creating a spinning barrier on the canyon. Evan felt the temperature drop sharply. But inside his jacket, Leary pressed close, glowing warmly against his heart. The largest Guardian stepped closer. It leaned down and stared directly at Evan. Its voice echoed like wind moving through caverns. You carry our child. Evan took a shaky breath. Yes, I saved her. The Guardian nodded once. Then you are under our protection, human. Evan blinked. You know what a human is? Before the Guardian could answer, a hunter screamed, Fire everything! Dozens of red energy beams shot toward Evan and Leary. The Guardians moved instantly. Ice walls erupted from the ground, blocking the blasts. The beams hit the ice with loud cracks, but the walls held strong. Leary opened her eyes wider. She looked at Evan with tears shining like stars. They're here because of you, she whispered. Because you didn't run. He shook his head. No, they're here because you're worth protecting. She glowing brighter, comforted, strengthened. Alive. The Guardians raised their arms again. A wave of blue energy burst outward. It hit the hunter's ship, ripping off its engines, sending it spiraling uncontrollably toward the mountainside. The hunters screamed as they fell back, defeated. Overwhelmed, Leary leaned her tiny head against Evan's chest. This is only the beginning, she whispered softly. Evan looked at the mighty Guardians standing around them. The beginning of what? Leary breathed in, her glow warm and bright. The beginning of a new age, where humans and Frostborn stand together. Thunder rolled across the sky, deep, powerful, promising. The galaxy was changing, and it started with a human holding a miniature glowing child in his hands. Asterisk. The sky glowed bright blue as the Frostborn Guardians formed a wide circle around Evan and Leary. Their tall ice bodies radiated strength. And the ancient valley, once silent and forgotten, now pulsed with strange new life. The hunter's ship lay broken against the mountainside, smoke rising from its shattered engines. Evan stood in the center of the Guardians, holding the tiny alien girl close to his chest. Her glow was steady now, soft and warm, no longer flickering with fear. For the first time she looked peaceful. The largest Guardian stepped forward. Its voice rolled like thunder through the canyon. The Frostborn child lives. The storm answers her. Leary raised her tiny head, her shimmering eyes reflecting the aurora above. Thank you, she whispered to the Guardian. I thought I was the last of us. You are the future of us, the Guardian replied. And this human is now part of that future. Evan blinked. Part of your future? I don't understand. The Guardian turned its shining gaze to him. You risked your life for our child. You fought machines with nothing but courage. You faced storms with only your heart. Many species fear the Frostborn. Many hunt us. But you human chose to protect us. Evan swallowed hard, unsure how to respond. Before he could speak, a soft sound came from inside his jacket. Leary crawled out and sat on his palm. Her glow was brighter and now steadier than ever. She lifted her tiny arms and touched his thumb gently. Evan, she whispered, you gave me warmth when the ice was killing me. You believed me when no one else did. You stayed even when it was dangerous. Her eyes glimmered. No Frostborn will ever forget what you did. Evan nodded, throat tight. I just did what anyone should do. No, the Guardian said firmly. Many would have run. You did not. The wind picked up, but it wasn't cold anymore. It felt calm, controlled, like someone was guiding it. She looked up at the swirling aurora and lifted her small hands. Her glow spread outward, forming a soft rippling wave of blue light. It rose higher and higher until it touched the clouds. Then the clouds opened. A giant beam of light shot into the sky, sending a message far beyond the valley, far beyond the planet, into the great emptiness of the galaxy. Evan stared in awe. "Leary, what are you doing?" "Calling them," she whispered. "All of them, the Frostborn?" Evan asked. Leary shook her head slowly. "Everyone." The beam grew wider, brighter, stronger. Guardians bowed their heads as if paying respect to a rising queen. And across the stars, someone answered. A deep, rumbling echo vibrated through the air as ancient structures buried under the planet began to illuminate. Frostborn temples, forgotten for thousands of years, suddenly came alive, glowing in the same soft blue as Leary. Evan felt his skin prickle. "What's happening?" The Guardian replied slowly. "The galaxy will know the Frostborn are back, and that humans walk among them once more." Leary turned toward Evan, her tiny face glowing like a star. Humans were believed to be myths, lost in time, stories told to scare young aliens. No one knew you still existed. "And now they do," Evan said quietly. "No," Leary whispered. "Now they know humans protect." Her words echoed through the valley. Suddenly, a second signal flashed across the sky, bright red and fast. A warning. The hunters weren't alone. Their distress signal had reached someone. Evan turned to the Guardians. "Is that another ship?" "Not one ship," the Guardian answered. "Many." Leary's glow dimmed in fear, but Evan placed a gentle finger against her back. "Hey, look at me. We're not running this time." She blinked up at him. "What will we do?" The Guardians stepped forward, forming a towering wall of ice behind Evan. Their voices merged like a rolling storm. "We will stand. Human and Frostborn, together." Evan took a deep breath. "Then that's what we do." More lights appeared in the sky, large shadows descending through the clouds. Alien ships of different shapes and sizes, drawn by Leary's call, or by the hunter's warning. Some came to investigate, some came to conquer, and some came because they were curious, but none of them expected what they would see. A human long thought extinct, holding a Frostborn child while surrounded by ancient guardians of ice. Leary lifted her tiny hand again. Her glow brightened, spreading through the entire valley like dawn breaking across a frozen world. She whispered gently, "Let them come. They will learn what a human heart can do." The aurora above twisted into brilliant colors. The snow sparkled like diamonds. The first alien ship landed slow, cautious, unsure. Evan stood tall. Leary sat proudly on his shoulder, glowing bright. And in that moment, the galaxy realized two things. Humans were real, and humans were protectors. The Frostborn Guardians bowed to Evan. One last silent promise. A new age had begun. An age shaped by a tiny glowing girl, and the human who refused to walk away.